Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. So I am here returning with my Warhammer Quest series, and we are finally going to be looking at the 3 issues of Deathblow. So Deathblow was, well, basically you could think of it as an official fanzine that was released. They only made 3 issues of it total, and it was a compilation of official articles from White Dwarf, from the Citadel Journal, and in addition to that, it also had fan created material that was considered unofficial. Um, it's a weird magazine in that there is some good information in here, and it is fun to read. However, some of the information is actually incomplete. So some of the official characters that they might have introduced, they don't have all of the information that you need to actually play them. But there are some neat things in here. And there were only 3 issues. And as you can see, the first issue is quite a bit bigger than the other 2. The other 2 are pretty much, you could combine them and almost have the first issue. But we're going to take a quick look at these. I'm not going to do a huge detailed examination of these because we could spend one episode on each, but I think that's a little bit too much. So this is Deathblow 1, and it is just printed on newsprint, which is fine. I would, like I was saying in one of my last videos, I would really like for something like this to exist again in paper format. I know, most of this stuff exists now in a digital format, and that's fine, but there is something nice about having a cool little fanzine like this actually in print. So in the first issue here, we have ways to kind of use the dungeon tiles as you could simulate them being the streets of a town, and so you could actually explore the settlements like you would a dungeon. So that's called Downtown. We have a new location called the Bank. We have an adventure called Eyes of Doom. And then some characters, I think, on a Dangerous Dwarfs, Spawn of the Old Ones. This is a missing article from White Dwarf number 205. Rumble in the Jungle, another adventure. And Claws of the Bear, the frozen wastes of Kislev in the far north. And then we have 4 new adventurers, but again, none of these are really complete, so I'm not sure what the point was. If it was just kind of an advertisement, I don't know. So we have Niet Comrade, that's the Kislev shaman. You thieving little bastard or bitch, maybe. I'm not sure what cuss word they were bleeping out there. A Sneaky Rules for Halfling Thieves. You Ain't Seen Me, Right? It's a new assassin character. And What You Looking At? Thick and Hard. It's an ogre character. So I believe that Little Monk has fleshed out these additional characters and has those for download on his website with all of the fan-made Warhammer Quest material, and we will talk about him and his website in a future episode coming up soon when I get to the DIY stuff. So this is the Downtown. So this was written by Andrew Meredith. And just the introduction says, call us a bunch of sad gits, if you will, but me and my mates really like to get into our characters when we are playing Warhammer Quest. No, really get into them. So after a good few hours of simultaneous monster bashing and ale quaffing of an evening, we kind of resent not being able to see our warriors wander the streets of whatever town we get to between adventures. Anyway, crazy, impetuous fools that we are, we have resolved the situation in what we consider a satisfactory manner. Okay, yeah, I don't know if this fan, Andrew Meredith, actually wrote this, but man, is it verbose and overwritten. Piled with liberal libations. I have a feeling that this was actually rewritten by a Games Workshop employee, or maybe Andrew Meredith is a Games Workshop employee. I don't know. Maybe this is an official little expansion. But anyways, this just tells you kind of how to more fully explore the settlements and make the settlements a part of a game. I think it kind of just makes the games longer. But if you're into that kind of thing, then this is a very detailed little rules supplement. And then we have the bank, which is a new location. At the bank, of course, you can put your money, you can store your money, withdraw money, deposit money, and I believe you can earn interest on it. So that's kind of cool. And then we have the Eyes of Doom, a Warhammer Quest adventure, not for the faint of heart. Steve's campaign is good dead. Yes, pun included. But as ever, it isn't official. So this is another little DM run adventure because it does have a preset map that you are to run the players through. And then here we have dwarf encounters. So that's what the Dangerous Dwarfs is. Just different ways to spice up your encounters with dwarves, and different kinds of dwarves and different kinds of stats, and maybe some of the different things those different dwarves might have. So here we have the official rules for the old ones, the lizard race people in the old world. I believe this is one of the things that was left out of White Dwarf when they introduced the other kingdoms, the old kingdoms. And so here we have an official rule set for adding the lizard race to your White Dwarf or your Warhammer Quest games. And let's see, to follow from the spawn of the old ones, Paul has sent us his special rules for Lestarian events and treasure based on the rules in White Dwarf 196 and 197. So this is just another way to kind of augment your rules in the jungle. We have different events, some taverns, a lost temple, new rooms that you can face in the dungeon. So that's kind of cool. And then here we have Claws of the Bear by Daniel Atkins. Daniel is 20 and plays all Games Workshop games, but the one he plays most regularly is Warhammer Quest. He has 3 characters, big deal. So this was his kind of, some of the writing in this is quite interesting. I'm not sure the crowd they were going for, because it's kind of written in a way that you would think it was written towards a very young audience. So I don't know. But we have some rules here for the lands of the north, which is kind of like Russia, basically. Kislev. Just different rules to traveling and hazards and the frozen wastelands. Lots of information if you're into that kind of thing. Yetis, snow trolls, ice elementals. So definitely some cool stuff. If you want to get more, I guess these Deathblow issues were cool if you really wanted to explore Warhammer Quest more as a role-playing game, because they were kind of, you would get more of your supplements where you could expand the world outside of the dungeons. And then here we have some of the rules on the Shaman. Again, I don't believe this is a complete expansion, because you don't get your upgrade, your stat update tables or anything. You've got your thieving little BITCH, I guess, Halfling Thief characters in Warhammer Quest by Gav Thorpe. So these are official. They're just incomplete. And yeah, I'm just not sure what you were supposed to do with incomplete character information. I guess you could kind of make it up as you went or afterwards. An assassin character and an ogre character by Andy Jones. The assassin character actually does have your stat upgrade tables. But again, if you're looking to play any of these unofficial expansion characters, Little Monk, I believe, has done most of them, if not all of them. So that was issue 1, and now we have issue 2. So again, quite a bit thinner than issue 1. we have some new rules. A little campaign called the Shattered Amulet, and I believe that was actually somewhat based on the campaign in Advanced Hero Quest that comes with the box game. We have Return of the Dark Queen and Spleen, which this is kind of cool. It adds tables to get critical wounds when you face a critical strike, and I always like that. This is a really cool little diorama here, though. Nice little 3D setup. And then you've got some more articles, more monsters. A Horror Awakens, so that was from White Dwarf. We already went over that. On the Waterfront, that's from White Dwarf 196. And The Lost Kingdoms from White Dwarf 197. So this issue 2 actually ended up reprinting quite a bit of stuff that we've already looked at. And then you get 3 more heroes in various states of completion. You got a Barefoot Druid, the Dwarf Brewmaster, and a Salty Sea Dog. And then a couple articles, how to make your own 3D terrain, and some things you can get via mail order. So again, these were largely fan-driven content. So this is the quest for the Shattered Amulet. And this quest has quite a bit of information in it. This is actually a pretty cool little quest I wouldn't mind running someday. Good little Skaven adventure. The Return of the Dark Queen. Creatures of Darkness. The caverns and dungeons below Warhammer World are treacherous places. Courageous warriors battle against evil, questing for lost treasures through the unending danger of bloodthirsty monsters and vicious traps. So this just kind of tells you about your monsters. And we've already looked at these, I believe, in a White Dwarf issue. The Dungeon Architect. Warhammer Quest Terrain by Andy Judson, just kind of showing examples of how to build 3D terrain, if you're into that kind of thing. I wish I had the time and the space for that kind of stuff. It seems fun, but I just never do. So, the Army Spleen, Critical Strikes in Warhammer Quest. So these are just different tables you can roll on if you want your warriors to suffer critical wounds when they get critically injured. So like if you're a combatant, so if you were attacked with a sword, you would roll a d6 if you got critically wounded. And you could see, like, so you could get slashed. The enemy swings his sword at the warrior. Treat this as a normal attack. It would be an overhead strike. The enemy swings his sword in a mighty overhead arc. Double the value of the enemy's strength when rolling the damage. A thrust. The enemy tries to impale the warrior on his weapon. Roll 2d6. If the result is less than or equal to the warrior's initiative, he has dodged the thrust. If the result is over his initiative, then he takes double the total damage. So it's kind of cool. I should start using these when I play. It adds some variety to the combat, which can get a little stale, but it also probably adds some time to the combat, so there is a trade-off. Little advertisement that you can write for Deathblow, but this was the second of 3 issues, so the chances of you getting your submission in on time were probably pretty slim to none, probably. A couple advertisements for the Black Library and the Journal. On the Waterfront, we've already looked at. The Lost Kingdoms, we've already looked at. So I think if I would have purchased this when it came out as a fan looking for more content, I might have been disappointed because of how much reprint is in here. But as somebody who is collecting the game as kind of a museum pieces, I'm glad to have these issues. Would be nice if there's a little more art, but not a ton to look at. So the Dwarf Brewmaster, it looks like he is a completed Mine's a Pint Hick. Dwarf Brewmasters in Warhammer Quest. So that might be a complete new warrior. And then we have the Salty Sea Dog for your sea adventures. Deathblow feedback. And then a couple little advertisements. some stuff you could mail order, some dungeon furniture. And then finally, the final issue, the thinnest issue of them all, Deathblow, final issue, number 3. We have the Arabian Nights, new exotic location for adventurers to explore. Out of the Darkness, that's from White Dwarf 202. The Good, the Bad, and the Rotting, a short scenario against dark elves and undead. The Lowlife and the Highlife, town events by Gavin Thorpe, and that's from the Citadel Journal, number 28. And then some questions and answers. So these are some basically an FAQ, rules clarifications by Andy Jones, and those were from White Dwarf 191. So Arabian Nights, kind of, a Middle Eastern type environment to explore. Different things you can buy, different taverns. Out of the Darkness, we've seen that already. Taking your adventures to the outer world, or the upper world. The Good, the Bad, and the Rotting. That's a short little adventure for against undead. Write for Fanatic Press. So Fanatic Press was the imprint that published Deathblow. So it looks like instead of writing for Deathblow, they were now asking people to write for Fanatic Press. I don't know if they knew that this was going to be the last issue, or if it was a surprise. So the Lowlife and the Highlife, Going to Town by Gav Thorpe. So that irrepressible chap from games development thought that there weren't enough barroom brawls, dodgy encounters, and low-life wastrels in your average Warhammer Quest town. Well, after experiencing our very own Bugman's Bar, he was duly inspired. And there are now, so now there's different things to do in the settlements. So this is a nice little supplement. And then we have our FAQ. Not a very long FAQ. I'm sure it could have been a few more pages to really explain some of the ambiguities that you might associate or might find in the rules. And then a new little character. What was he? Was like a lord, maybe an elf lord or something. And that was by Gav Thorpe. I'm not sure if this one is complete or not. I don't see the upgrade table, but you do get a little character card there if you wanted to use that. And that's about it. So yeah, that is 3 issues of Deathblow. Again, if you were getting into collecting Warhammer Quest, I guess you would want to get everything, but I find that the issues of White Dwarf that you can buy are more fun because there's more things to look at, more art, more painting. And a lot of the articles are reprinted in here. There are some things that are new in here, which are pretty cool. But I don't know if I was, if I wasn't a super fan of the game, I don't think I would have these because they can be quite expensive, especially the first issue. The first issue, mine is a little beat up. It's not in terrible condition, especially given its age. But my issues 2 and 3 are actually in very nice condition. So I'm sure that, yeah, I don't know. I think this one can go for over $50 quite often. And these two are you can usually find for, I think, under 20, I believe. I can't remember how much I paid for all 3. But yeah, so that's Deathblow. And next up in this series, I believe we're going to start looking at the DIY stuff. So there's quite a bit of that. I'm sure we'll have maybe 2 or 3 more episodes in this series. It keeps expanding, getting longer, but I hope you guys are enjoying it. So I hope you guys like this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.